Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the press. Thank you for being here. We stand at a pivotal moment on several fronts for global peace and security. Accordingly, I wish to address three urgent issues today: the situation in Gaza and the United Nations Security Council vote. 2, the challenge of conflict-driven food insecurity and Sierra Leone's Feed Salon initiative. And 3, the threat of terrorism in Sahel region and our call for stronger international support for African-led peace efforts. First, on Gaza and the UN Security Council vote. Sierra Leone fully supports the United States drafted resolution on Gaza that has been adopted by the Security Council. This resolution endorses a comprehensive ceasefire plan that we believe offers the best path to end the violence and renews hope for a lasting peace. We are especially encouraged by its provisions to establish an international stabilization force in Gaza and a board of peace as a transitional governance mechanism. These measures, an impartial security force on the ground, and a political administrative board are crucial for stabilizing Gaza, protecting civilians, and creating an environment in which meaningful peace can take root. We commend the leadership of President Donald J. Trump for spearheading this bold peace initiative. Sierra Leone welcomes the United States-led mediation effort, working in close partnership with Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey, with support from the Palestinian leadership on the text of the resolution to bring about the current ceasefire and chart a way forward. Indeed, without the tireless efforts by the mediators, together with our collective advocacy in the Security Council, the hard-won ceasefire and the release of hostages in Gaza would not have been possible. This united effort has laid the groundwork to end the cycle of violence, and we hope to lay a path for peace that has eluded generations of Israelis and Palestinians. Sierra Leone urges the international community to come together and support the resolution. We choose to stand on the side of principles with pragmatism for peace, security, and human dignity of the people of Gaza. Secondly, I wish to address the scourge of food insecurity, especially as it relates to conflict, and highlight Sierra Leone's Feed Salon initiative. Around the world, conflict and hunger are tragically intertwined. In fact, the latest global report confirms that armed conflict is a primary driver of acute food insecurity in numerous countries. It accounts for the suffering among nearly 140 million people in 20 conflict-affected nations. When wars erupt, they do not only shatter lives and infrastructure, but they also destroy crops, disrupt markets, and drive families into famine. As a nation that has itself endured conflict in the past, Sierra Leone knows all too well that hunger can be both a cause and a consequence of instability. This is why we have been vocal in the international forums about breaking this vicious circle. Today, under Sierra Leone's presidency of the Security Council, we convened a high-level open debate on conflict-induced hunger, a signature event of our council chaired by myself. We want to galvanize global action so that conflict is no longer allowed to breed starvation, and starvation no longer fears new conflicts. But advocacy alone is not enough. Sierra Leone is also taking concrete action at home through our flagship program, Feeds Alone. Feeds Alone is our national initiative to achieve food security and build resilience, part of Sierra Leone's contribution to regional effort to create food systems that promote peace and stability. The vision of Feeds Alone is simple, yet transformative, to boost agricultural productivity, 1. 2, to reduce dependence on food imports. 3, alleviate hunger. And 4, ultimately build a resilient food system for our people. We are investing in everything from mechanized farming and irrigation to improved seeds bank, better roads from farm to market, and support for our women and youth in agriculture. By increasing local food production and creating jobs, Feeds Alone fights hunger today and tackles root causes of conflict for tomorrow. We believe that a well-fed nation is more peaceful. It's a more peaceful nation, one where youth have opportunities, communities are more self-reliant, and there is less competition for scarce resources. Sierra Leone is proud to lead on this issue, and we call on our partners to join us in linking food security and peace building. Together, we can ensure that no child goes to bed hungry because of war, and that food is used as a tool for development rather than as a weapon of conflict. Finally, I turn to the situation in the Sahel and coastal West Africa, and what we ask of the international community. The rise of terrorism and violent extremism in the Sahel, and the increasingly spilling over into coastal West African states, and that constitutes a grave threat to international peace and security. Jihadist and extremist groups are expanding their reach, exploiting weak state presence and feeding off instability. But we in the region are determined to confront this menace head-on. As current chair of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government, I'm committed to strengthening regional trust and security cooperation to address our shared challenges. We are working hard to restore confidence among West African nations and to bolster intelligence sharing, joint training, and coordinated action against terrorist groups. Our region continues to face insecurity in the Sahel and along the Gulf of Guinea. Terrorism, political instability, illicit arms flow, and transnational organized crime are testing the resilience of our nations and the effectiveness of our institutions. ECOWAS, under Sierra Leone's chairmanship, has made it a priority to rebuild that resilience through unity. We are engaging all member states in the region to foster dialogue and bring our region back together around our core principles of democracy, peace, and development. Only by building trust among neighbors can we present a united front against terrorists and traffickers who threaten us all. However, to succeed, Africa's effort must be met with robust international responsibility and partnership. Today, I call on the United Nations Security Council, the UN member states, the Secretariat and partners to support Africa-led peace initiatives with concrete action. In particular, we urge the full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 2719, which was a landmark unanimous decision acknowledging the need for predictable financing for African peace operations. That resolution provides a framework for the UN to help fund African-led peace support operations through assessed contributions on a case-by-case basis. In other words, the international community agreed that when Africa takes the lead in solving crises, the UN can and should take its share of the burden. We must now translate this commitment into reality. We welcome the African Union and United Nations ongoing work to operationalize Resolution 2719, and we stress that now is the time to act. African-led missions need reliable and sustained support. This includes the proposed ECOWAS standby force to combat terrorism in West Africa. By investing in African-led peace operations, the international community invests in its own security as well. Terrorism in the Sahel and West Africa is not a localized problem. Its impact ripples across borders and continents. Supporting an African response through frameworks like Resolution 2719 is a strategic imperative to keep extremists in check and uphold international peace and security. Let me use this opportunity to commend the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres for his renewed attention and dedicated support to addressing the multidimensional threats in the Sahel and West Africa. In conclusion, Sierra Leone remains steadfast in its commitment to global peace, security, and multilateral cooperation. Whether in supporting a path to peace in Gaza, combating hunger and building resilient food systems, or uniting against terrorism in Africa, our message is the same. We must work together. No nation can solve these challenges alone. Sierra Leone will continue to do its part in the Security Council, in the region, and at home to champion solutions that uphold the dignity of every human being. I urge our international partners to join us in these efforts with the urgency and solidarity that these times demand. Thank you.
Mr. President, question. China Central Television, 2 questions. First, on today's
I can take 3 questions on
okay. It's quite a lively stakeout. So for first question, today we just adopted a Gaza resolution, but in that resolution, it says creating an international stabilization force. But the term is quite vague. So in your opinion, how should this force be composed, and what would be the schedule to create such a force? And secondly, you mentioned about the terrorism in Sahel region. We know that you are in dialogue with the Alliance of Sahel States. What do you think is the importance for ECOWAS to cooperate with the Alliance of Sahel States to fight against terrorism in Sahel region? Thank you.
I think the most important thing that has happened in Gaza is the ceasefire, and we must do everything to sustain that status quo as it is now. And this is the very first step. We cannot iron out everything, but I hope that with the commitment of the United States and all the other stakeholders in the region there, we'll be able to iron out some of the issues that are still you are asking to know about. At this point in time, it is too early to want to propose or prescribe, but I think there is commitment and we should all support that. In the sub-region, the Sahel problem is very challenging for us as a region, and we are seeking international support and cooperation for us to deal with it. The AES definitely are bound to work with us. We live in the same region, we are bound by geography and culturally. And so we have to get them to understand, and that is what we are doing. And we are going to, it will take some time to, especially in a low trust environment as it is now, for them to come around. But I'm very sure I have engaged some of them, and I intend to engage more intensively so that we can bring them into the fold. We are kin, we belong together, and we'll be able to work together to solve the problem in the Sahel.
Thank you. One more question. Your country, would it play any role in the international force for Gaza? That's the first question. And the second question on Sudan. Mike Waltz, the US representative, called it the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. But it has been going on for more than 2 years. Why do you think the world hasn't paid more attention to this conflict in Sudan sooner? Thank you.
As you know, there are several crises around the world, and some have had the luxury of attracting more attention. But better late than never. Now that we are beginning to shift attention to it, maybe because the guns are about falling silent in Gaza, we in Africa are happy that we are beginning to pay more attention to it, and we will encourage the international community. With over 12 million people displaced and another 4 million in the other countries around, it is not only creating challenges within Sudan, but also for the neighboring countries. And the food systems over in those neighboring countries are already overwhelmed. Essential services have been overwhelmed completely, and we need to find a way to bring that situation under control. Thank you.
Live from the beating heart of Africa to every corner of the world, this is Noble Black News, where bold stories rise, fearless voices speak, and the truth cannot be silenced. Stay informed, stay empowered. The world is watching. Noble Black News begins now.